So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear community members, brothers and sisters in Islam. We are very grateful that you are able to join us. I know it's a Saturday, it's a long weekend for a lot of people. And hopefully, this is a beneficial program for you all. We typically, for those who are new to this, we have Quran Tafsir program in person that we try to hold in Sanford between 3 to 5. This week, given Sheikh is traveling, we thought of holding a Q&A series on topics that have been coming to us from the community. A lot of these were kind of being shared either in a dedicated Q&A WhatsApp group that was created, or just came up in general, but due to the nature of the topics, it was not something that would be easily addressed, for example, in a short form post in the WhatsApp group. So we felt a more appropriate medium was through Zoom or a larger discussion program like today's, inshallah. So that is kind of where this came from. And our goal is to be able to benefit from the knowledge that we have from Sheikh Mujtaba, and also try and keep an open mind with these topics, because we cannot ignore these if they are things that people want. Our goal is to be able to facilitate this as best as we can. At the same time, if there are topics here that are not addressing some of the questions that you have, let us know so that we can plan future events based on the feedback that we receive. And if there is specific Q&A that is tied to the topic of the discussion today, we will try to address that as we go. If it is unrelated to the topic, but still something that you want to ask or have ability to get more clarification on, let us know. We will try to either address them in the upcoming sessions or a dedicated Q&A forum that is just for more open questions outside of the specific topics that are here. Our goal is to have these on weekend, so most likely between Saturday and Sunday is when we will be having these programs. It happens to be Saturday, but as we get into the next sessions, we will try to share the dates so that you're aware. And don't worry, if you miss anything live, we will have the recording available so that you can all benefit and be able to reference. We are hoping that these are more adult content related questions, because that's just the nature of the topic. So just for reference, if you have any children, maybe you might want to be more mindful of kind of the information and what is being portrayed. So the first one, like I said, is on Islamic view on marriage, rulings versus akhlaq. Next one is going to be on divorce. What are some of the rulings pertaining to them? Then there will be a session on, milk al-yamin, and I'm not going to go into all of these in depth today, but just giving high level as to what they're going to be talking about. And then, like I said, the fourth session so far that has been planned is a Q&A session, and we will have more, inshallah, is the goal. But for today's particular program, we are planning to, inshallah, cover what is the ethos of Islamic marriage? Looking at it from the lens of fiqh, which is the Islamic rulings, versus akhlaq, which is how to live in a manner that is being taught to us by our role models, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and as well as the Ahlul Bayt. So we will try to learn about Islamic marriage from some of their examples. Also, the second topic we'll be looking at, is marriage more of a partnership? If so, how do we get to understanding the topic of qawamun, which has been mentioned in the Quran, and then there are some narrations which may not be necessarily understood well. So I think shedding light on that is what I'm hoping today's program can help. Also understanding the verses of nushuz, and specifically daraba, the word daraba, how is that to be interpreted? And then polygamy, multiple marriages, mut'a, the temporary marriages. So there's specific questions under each of those sections. So I'm gonna just give you guys the high level. You've already seen the flyer, which is what we're intending to cover. And I will, I will open it up for Q&A, through the chat. Feel free to submit, or if you really have to raise your hand, let's just raise your hand so we can try to get your question addressed. And again, try to stick with the topics so that it is beneficial for everyone. But don't hesitate. If there's anything outside of these, just submit the questions. We will try to park them for future sessions, inshallah. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for giving the long introduction, but I hope we can understand where we're coming from and where the next sessions will be going. And this is again organized by nonprofit organization by the name of Illuminating Hearts Institute. For those who are not aware, this was established to be able to offer educational programs. We have been holding halakha sessions as well as Quran tafsir programs, community events, translation work, among other things. So those who are interested, there is a website. I would highly encourage everyone to check it out, illuminatingheartsinstitute.com, which will offer you more information about what the programs are all about. And also the YouTube channel has the recordings. So if you ever want to catch any of the recordings that we've had, for all the various different programs, you're welcome to view them there. So thank you once again. We will turn into Sheikh Mujtaba to be able to enlighten us on this topic. I will scroll along, Sheikh, just let me know if you want me to, move from one slide to the other, and hope to be able to benefit from this program, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Inshallah, we'll begin. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Muhammad wa alihi tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum. So it's a blessed month, the month of that begins, the month of the Hijjah begins with the marriage anniversary of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Sayyidah Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. So a very blessed occasion is the beginning of this month, and these days, the first 10 days of the Hijjah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the opportunity to call upon Him and be conscious of our journey to Him and benefit from these days and nights of the month of the Hijjah. The topic, again, marriage. Inshallah, it is an opportunity for us to learn and benefit from the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, from the words of Ahlul Bayt and their lifestyle and the marriage, the example of the marriage of the Nurain, as it is referred to, the two lights, Imam Ali alayhi salam and Fatima salamullah alayha, the fruit of which, or the fruits of which were the divine leaders and the imams of Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim ajma'in. So to get into the subject or the questions that were shared, and perhaps start addressing them, and then perhaps whenever anyone has any question, please feel free to share it. If you wish to just to make it easier, perhaps you can send it as a text. And Brother Ali Rida, if you don't mind, if anyone has a question, that you share it with me whenever you feel it's the right moment for it, or if you want to interrupt at any point, just let me know. Would that work?
Yes, inshallah. As they come, I will try to pass them along. One question that's comment is if you can just make the audio a little bit louder on your end, Sheikh, inshallah, that'll help, I think, some of the listeners.
Okay, I might have to bring it closer. I don't have any particular device, so I'll just bring it closer, hopefully. Is this better?
I think so, slightly maybe.
Okay, so hopefully, let me just make sure the audio source is at the right source. It should be, yes, it should be it. So I'll just try and be louder myself if that's necessary.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the first question that we have here is, what are the ethos of an Islamic marriage? This is, I guess, important in today's society to reflect on this, in a society where there are many people who unfortunately do not acknowledge the necessity of marriage to even have any kind of relationship between the two genders, or the more of the intimate relationship or being in a partnership. They don't acknowledge that. So that's one extreme in the society, where they think that they could have a relationship without the marriage, and then later on, if they decide, they would ever officiate and so on. So it's become more of a cultural step that people take, rather than a commitment in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what we see marriage is, it is a commitment in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the best ayat that actually explain this, or what marriage is, or what it's supposed to be, is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to it in Surah An-Nisa, ayah 21, when he actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to it as a miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. So this ayah in the Quran, by the way, each ayah in the Quran, and let me just clarify this, as we discuss this often in the tafsir sessions. Ayah is not a verse. A translation of the term ayah is not a verse, and for the saying the verse of the Quran is not accurate. Now, if we refer to it for the purpose of perhaps those who don't understand what ayah is, understandable, but ayah is a sign, ayah is a miracle. And each one of the ayat of the Quran is a miracle. And whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, min ayatihi, He is about to introduce one of His signs or one of His miracles that He wants us to ponder upon. So He says, amongst His signs or miracles is that He created for you, khalaqa lakum, for you, min anfusikum, from yourselves, azwajan. Many, in fact, controversies or many concerns are addressed already here if we were to really look and focus on the meanings of each one of those terms. So He created for you. It's a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a sign, a miracle, and a favor. خَلَقَ لَكُمْ. He created for you. It's a favor. So marriage is a great favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a sign, it's a miracle, it's a reason for pondering and reflection. And it is also a favor that He has favored us with. And then He says, azwajan litaskunu. So He gives reasons why the azwaj. So yes, in this slide, I shared a few points in the slides so that those who want to perhaps have some reference for later on, they can. So the first thing He says, litaskunu, sukuna, or sukun, sukna, if you wish. Sakina comes from the same root. So litaskunu, so that you can find, in Arabic they actually when they say second, they speak about home, or a place of where you call home and reside in it. And second also is when you find peace, tranquility. That's why they say, where do you live? They say aina taskun. Where do you consider home and peace and tranquility. So وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا. The min anfusikum, inshallah, we'll come back to it later as we discuss the partnership concept and the question, is it partnership or what is it exactly? Is it ownership? Unfortunately, some may consider it ownership. You're buying and selling and something of that nature, which is completely wrong and a misunderstanding of the concept of marriage in Islam. So it is definitely a partnership, min anfusikum, this is from yourselves. And he says the first thing is litaskunu. And then he has blessed us with, ja'al, which ja'al is when God has made. Now, ja'al is either made as in a rule or made as in he has, this is what he has decreed. That's how it is, as how he formed it or how he basically created it or intended it to be. So in this case, when he says he made between you mawadda and rahma, mawadda is love and more so affection, love that is displayed in action, not just words. So it actually is a good point here to raise, how they say we speak different love languages. And, some may display their love through words, others through acts of affection, others through gifts and, favors and so on. All of those are included when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says mawadda. But not words that are not sincere and real, because if it's not sincere and real, that's not mawadda, and that's not even love. So love that is displayed in action, love that is real and can be seen. So he has made it, and he also made the rahmah, mercy between you. Now, many may question, okay, if he made it this way, how is it that it is not automatically happening? A level of it is happening. We cannot deny that. A level of mawadda and rahmah happens automatically. But it actually tells us that this ja'al, that when he says made it, or he ja'ala lakum wa ja'ala baynakum, this ja'al is also a rule. He is saying this is how it should be. There should be mawadda and rahma between you. So the marriage is about providing sakina, providing mawadda, and providing rahma to your partner for both parties. This is the Islamic marriage and the rule, the Quranic rule on what an Islamic marriage should be. So it should be all about providing home, providing safety, security from both partners. Yes, some aspects of safety and security are provided from the husband, and other aspects of safety and security are provided from the wife. He gives her his heart, he wants, and this is in today's psychology, they speak a lot about the necessity for women to give some sort of security to the husband, show them that they love, the wife to show her husband that she loves him. And that's the kind of security he wants. Show him that his heart is safe with her, that he's giving her, his heart, he's giving her his efforts, and he's displaying his love through providing his level of safety and security, and the reciprocation is also necessary. So this is how an Islamic marriage is defined and should be established based on this. Now, often the issue that comes with this, or many people ask a question, perhaps in the next slide, we can address some of those issues. So many people say the rules that we have in Islam, some may suggest that they don't reflect this. Some of the rules might be harsh. Some of the rules might be discriminating from one party against the other. The partnership issue might not be very clear. Instead, it is seen as some sort of authority and ownership, and therefore, this whole concept of safety, security, love, affection, and mercy is not seen in the way the rules may reflect those things. So one thing I need to really clarify here and make perhaps a distinction is between the fiqh and the akhlaq levels of marriage. And though they are intertwined together, but there's also a level of separation and distinction between them. What do we mean by that? A household that is based on rights and who has which rights and so on, merely on rights, and there is no deep love and affection that is the drive behind the actions and interactions between the two partners, that household requires the basic laws that we have in Islam, the basic marital laws. Okay, we often, our ulama, they call them the rights. They say the first level of rights and the secondary rights. So the rights of your wife, we read in the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt. There are many detailed rights of providing them with affection, providing them with even being forgiving towards your spouse, being kind and gentle with your spouse, with your wife especially. And from the other side, the wife, the rights of the husband is that the wife is affectionate. She offers, for instance, herself to the husband. In fact, the hadith says, every night. Obviously, given given that there's no other restriction, but in general, to be affectionate, to offer, to be, to even make not just make food, but make delicious food, for example, is mentioned in the hadith as one of the rights. Okay. On the other hand, we have the rules in Islamic jurisprudence or fiqh that limit the rights to a few simple things. Okay, that for instance, from the wife is that she does not deny her husband and does not leave the house or her house, the marital home that they have together, without his permission. And for the husband is to provide, for instance, financially, and not to abandon his wife, and not to be distant from her for a period that is more than 4 months. So one might say, well, this is how could this be a healthy marital household? The answer is that these are the rights when people end up in court. Okay, these are the rights that jurists and scholars look at when somebody ends up in court. Is he providing the absolute minimum, the bare minimum, and is she providing the bare minimum, or are any of them not fulfilling their duty and making sure that they are observing the rights of their partner? Again, these are the last thing, the court case, when a marriage ends up in a court case. All the other rights are the rights to make the marriage flourish. And these are rights that are in fact mentioned in the hadith, as in God basically looks towards somebody who's doing those things with goodness, and does not like those who are missing or dismissing or ignoring those things. So the other rights that I mentioned earlier, in terms of being affectionate, being kind, being loving, forgiving, displaying affection, offering herself from her side, for instance, and all of these things are things that God loves to see from us, and if we don't, He does not like it. This is an example of that, if you wish, is our daily salat, or some of our ibadat, where there is a level of jurisprudence to it. Okay, when we perform our wudu, the minimum is that you make the intention of wudu and to do those actions. Okay, that's what you need to do, the wudu. Wash your face, wash your hands up to the elbow, and wipe your head and wipe your feet. This is the jurisprudence of it. But is this wudu, and the intention should be qurbatan ilallah, okay, that I'm purifying, making my wudu qurbatan ilallah. Okay, I say it and I'm doing it. That is that's the bare minimum. Even salat, we have this rules of salat. For instance, when you perform your salat, you make your intention, you stand, you have the recitation, you go to ruku', you go to sujood, and so on. One who does the arkan, the pillars of salat, the framework of salat, is from a jurisprudential perspective, they have fulfilled their duty. They've prayed. Okay, but for that salat to be accepted and not rejected on a spiritual level, not on a jurisprudential level. On a jurisprudential level, it's accepted, but to be accepted and not returned or rejected, as the hadith says, it'll be returned back. It's like that does not penetrate through the heavens. For it to be accepted, the heart has to be present in it. So I would use the same analogy in this situation. From an akhlaqi perspective, an Islamic marriage, your heart should be in it. And so one should provide with love, one should provide with the intention of even qurbatan ilallah. In fact, a marriage, anything we could do in life could have qurbatan ilallah. But marriage, in fact, is one of the most beloved things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in fact loves, as in a structure. The hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that there's no structure in Islam that is more beloved to God than marriage. Ma buniya fil Islam. Nothing is basically, no structure is made in Islam that is more dear or beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than marriage. So this is something really dear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the opposite of it, inshallah. In future sessions, we can speak about what is the most detested permissible act, which is talaq. That goes on the completely opposite side of the spectrum, which is the most detested. So this is something holy. This is something that we need to put our heart to it, and therefore provide with love, provide with affection, provide with mercy, and make sure that we're not just fulfilling the bare minimum. The nafaqa and so on are the absolute bare minimum. The contract and all of that is to make sure that, okay, there is a level of commitment, because there are tabi'at, there are consequences. When there is a marriage, there are children, there is inheritance, and all of these things. These are all the jurisprudential sides. So it has to be clear, things have to be clarified, and the court may get involved, Islamic court, if there is a failure to fulfill certain duties. But a healthy marriage should be above the basic jurisprudential level. It should be, a healthy marriage should be about, in fact, being with your partner, qurbatan ila Allah. Therefore, seeing one's actions towards the partner. When a man goes out and works and to provide for his family, seeing his actions as strive for the sake of God. And this is a hadith, in fact. الكاد لعياله كالمجاهد في سبيل الله. When he goes out and strives and works hard for his family, he is like somebody who is striving or on a battlefield fighting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Very honorable status it is to be, a provider, a man who is providing for his family. And also for the wife, she sees her actions of affection. She sees her welcoming of her husband when he comes home, and her basically any service that she's doing for him, she sees it as an act of worship, and which is leading her to be a special servant. There's a hadith that says there was a man who came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I have a wife. When I come home, she welcomes me. And when I'm departing my home, she farewells me. She, comes to the door and farewells me. Whenever I'm sad, whenever she sees me in grief or sadness, she asks me, she says, what is making you sad? Is it something for this world? God is sufficing you for it, kafak. And if it's something about your hereafter, then that sadness is positive. May God increase you sadness or concern about the hereafter, gham, or that concern for any status in the hereafter. That is a positive thing. So the Prophet ﷺ said to that man that your wife is one of God's special agents. عاملة من عمال الله. How we have Al-Khidr as praised in Surah Al-Kahf. He is one of God's special agents, goes around and does godly work. The Prophet says your wife doing this is doing something similar, in the sense that she is a special agent doing godly work. So this is important to keep that distinction, that we have some rights, we have some duties which are basic for worst case scenarios that ends up in a court case. But the other rights, in terms of treating with kindness, affection, is one sinful if they don't display affection to their wife? Are they sinful in the sense that they're not fulfilling their duty? The basic duty they're not that they have to fulfill. If they are not fulfilling in terms of providing and not abandoning, it is if they don't fulfill that, it is sinful. However, the other one, it is not necessarily sinful, rather it is missing out. They're missing out on just like if you pray your basic salat and your heart is not present, you're not committing a sin, but you're missing out on your salat to be ascended, to help you ascend and gain real nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is very similar in this situation. So from the akhlaq perspective, it is beyond just the obligation. It should be, a marriage should be about providing all the emotional care and being forgiving. And this is what we read in both the ayat and riwayat. Earlier I mentioned the ayah from in the Surah Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, in ayah 21, he says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. This in fact, ayah clarifies that the purpose of marriage is sukna, is mawadda, and it's rahmah. Another, the ayah from Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 187, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنَّ. Libas is what provides protection, provides warmth, provides protection from the cold, from the scorching of the sun, and provides, even protection against other things that may happen, and provides also, hides the error, hides one's, libas beautifies. It's very sad that in today's world, they think it's beautiful to display, be more like an animal, and that's beautiful. To show the body parts and so on is considered in today's world. Some may think it's beautiful. The real beauty is when what God has, in fact, inspired insan by. He says, أنزل لكم. He brought down to us لباسا يواري سوآتكم وريشا. Libas is beautification. Rish is like feather, but in here it's in reference to what beautifies us. So when women or men are libas for one another as a husband and wife, they're providing beautification. She beautifies you, you beautify her. She protects you and covers and hides your errors, and you do the same for her. So the term used here shows way more than the very basic jurisprudential duties towards one another. There's that sense of responsibility that they should have towards one another, to protect one another, to beautify one another, to speak well of the partner, to hide their errors. She gets to know your secrets. You get to know her secrets. These are for you, not for anyone else. To hide them, to protect them, and so on. So this is again how Islam and the Quran puts it. And we even have in Risalat al-Huquq from Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, clearly he mentions that amongst the rights are, forgiveness, recognition of their status as a gift from God, to recognize your partner as a gift from God, and therefore be forgiving if they make a mistake, and both of them should be like that towards one another. This is in terms of like the very basic principles of the purpose of marriage in Islam and what it's meant to be. And obviously, when we speak of the purpose, there is another important aspect, which is to form the family and bring assets to the future of humanity. But obviously making sure that they're not liabilities. And that's why it's very, very important to, beautify this household, because that's how we can have assets. To beautify the marriage and sanctify it, beautify it, and strengthen it, and make sure it never breaks, because we know from statistics today and from many researchers how damaging is any like breaking up and divorce, how damaging it is for both parties, but mostly also for the children, and how often children end up becoming liabilities in the society in a broken marriage and broken household. Any comments or question on this first question so far? If anything comes up, I don't get to read the comments, so Brother Ali, if you don't mind, if anything comes up, just let me know.
I will let you know. So one of the questions came, I think it's specifically tied to the third session. So I think that will be the right time, hopefully, for that one, so we can give it more attention.
Okay.
But for the particular section of this first session here. You mentioned that it's not a sin to not have good akhlaq of marriage. But
Yeah.
how is that, in light of the fact that if you're harming the other partner
Yeah.
by not having that level of affection in the marriage or attention to the emotional needs that the other
Yeah.
partner has, by just going with the bare minimum, how is that really
Not a sin.
going again? That basically goes against the
Yeah.
Quranic, like mawadda and rahma. How do you explain?
Ahsan. Very good question, and thank you for bringing this up, because this I guess, it needed a little more clarification. In itself, the further other rights, if they're not fulfilled, in itself is not a sin. But sometimes the intention and the knowledge of a person of the consequences makes it a sin. Okay. So the example I will give is how we have certain things that are considered vices, things that we need to purify from, and certain things that are considered sins, that if we commit them, they're sins. Jealousy, for example, in itself, jealousy is not in Islam. Now, there are in other schools or religions, they may even consider it as jealousy. I mean, as a sin. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, in Christianity, they have not made that distinction. So they typically would say jealousy is a sin. In Islam, the initial feeling that you have, that if one has that initial feeling, in Halaqa we discussed it in the Akhlaq discussion, if one has that feeling, it's in itself is not a sin. Okay, that tendency is there. When somebody has something that we don't have, we have that tendency. So that immediate feeling is okay. But then if we question God, now there's consciousness, there's awareness, we're questioning God, why do they have it and I don't have it? That is a sin on a theological level. If we act on our jealousy and try to strip them from what they have, or harm them because they have what we don't have, those actions become sinful actions. Okay, now back to this scenario. In this scenario, a husband or a wife, if they are aware of, if she does not, let's say, offer herself at night to the husband, okay, in a hadith it's mentioned it's his right that a wife should do that. Okay, if she does not do that, did she commit a sin? Not necessarily. In itself, it's not a sin. If he doesn't show affection, tell her how much he loves her, if he doesn't, let's say, he doesn't come home, okay, he should be there, but he doesn't, and he travels a lot, not because he has to work, but he's just neglectful of his presence. Okay, an Islamic court cannot hold it against him unless she says, well, he abandoned me for 4 months now. Then she has rights to now either you fulfill your duty towards your spouse and be there with her, or you have to let her go. Okay. But if he is aware that this is hurting her and he is indifferent about it, he doesn't care, that becomes a sin. Okay, because harming the heart of a believer, not even your wife, harming intentionally, knowingly, deliberately, harming a believer is a sin. Just like providing happiness to the heart of a believer or to the heart of a believer is a good deed. إدخال السرور في قلب المؤمن عبادة. to bring happiness to the heart of a believer is an act of worship. It is a rewarding act of worship. The harming them knowingly, deliberately, unless one has a genuine excuse. Otherwise, if they're deliberately doing something, it is a sin. So I hope that just to be able to cover other questions, I hope that answers. If not, please do ask and we can clarify. I'm trying to keep it brief.
Yeah, I think that helps.
Yeah, so just in very brief terms, in itself, if one does not do some of those, for example, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, he says one of the rights of your spouse is to forgive her. Okay. Now, if one does not forgive immediately from the bottom of their heart, have they committed a sin? Not, that's not something that's going to be held against them. Yes, they did not elevate to the level of the people who forgive and therefore God forgives them. They have missed out. They've missed out on certain levels. So the akhlaqi aspects or the spiritual aspects of the marriage, they're missing out on something. Now, if as a result he ends up doing something harmful, okay, that is sinful, that's a sin, okay. If as a result he abandons her, for instance, that's a sin. If but in itself, if he doesn't fulfill that, he's missing out on something, but it's not a sin. So another example, forget the 4 month again is a court thing. What if the wife, and excuse me if I'm being blunt here, what if the wife has needs, okay, in terms of affection, emotions, or beyond, okay, and he abandons her knowing, okay, and he does not fulfill her needs and so on? That could lead to great sins, and that is in fact, if he deliberately does it, he is sinful for sure. So the next question is on whether marriage is a partnership or whether it's, I'm glad the question was not written out as sometimes acknowledgement of the some of the controversies that exist, and writing it, emboldening it is actually in a way confirming it. So some question the Islamic structure or the way Islam structures marriage, and they suggest that it's the contract is more like ownership, buy and sell, because there's the mahar, and the authority that the man has in the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says الرجال قوامون, and many men remember this ayah, or many people remember this part of the ayah very well, and that's perhaps one of the only or one of the few things that they know in the Quran. Is it ownership? Is it a boss and employee relationship type thing? Is it master-slave relationship, wal-'iyadhu billah? Or is it partnership? The Quran, as we mentioned earlier when we were looking at the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. In there, the مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ aspect and the azwaj aspect suggests that it is definitely a partnership, okay, min anfusikum, from yourselves. And azwaj is not one-sided. Zawj are pair. So azwaj is like pairs, as in partners. There's no superiority for one over the other here. The other ayah we recited earlier in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنْ. Very clear. Yes, there's no, inshallah, there's no doubt about how it's very, it's equal partnership. There's no superiority for one over the other. In here, we're also looking at another ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. For them is equal to what is against them. Not necessarily against, for and against here, as in the rights that basically rights and responsibilities. Okay, responsibilities as in what is upon them, and the other one is for them. Okay, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ. So here, clearly, the ayah is the mithl is not suggesting anything that is not mithl, which is mithl is like. So they're the like in terms of the relationship and the responsibilities and duties. There's equality for sure. There's no superiority. However, what we need to be very clear here, which is something that perhaps many of our great scholars wrote about, is the fact there's a difference between equality and similarity. When we say equal, no one is seen above. No one is seen to be superior. No one is seen to be, to have a greater value in the eyes of God, for example. Or automatically, because he's a man, he is closer, or his prayers are closer, or anything of that nature, or vice versa. Okay, because she's a man, she's a woman, therefore, none of that. Okay, so that is when it comes to the equality. But similarity, anyone who suggests that they should have similar or the same, same rights and same responsibilities, not equal rights, not to be equally valued in the partnership, not to have equal rights. No, anyone who goes as far as suggesting similar, that they're the same, okay, that is actually oppression to women or oppression to both, okay, but more specifically towards women. Okay? In today's society, expectation of women to work and earn along the man and to be providing along the man is, in my humble opinion, is a great oppression. Okay, because she is meant to be provided for. She is meant to be protected and provided for, and that actually is it starts with the very early notion and that gesture of mahar. Okay, a woman is not to pay mahar to the man. A man is the one who has to pay mahar to the woman. Meaning what? I'm willing to provide for you. Okay, I'm willing to protect you. I'm willing to provide for you. This is where it's mahar is not to secure her future in case of divorce. Unfortunately, I have to make this point here and clarify something. Unfortunately, in some societies, they have misused and abused mahar in a way that has not favored anybody, or any of the two partners. It harmed both of them. Okay, it delays the marriages. It actually often it does not allow a marriage to happen. They arguing and fighting over the mahar, and making the whole thing material thing, and therefore they're both are losing. Okay? Mahar is a gift that a man gives to the wife as a token of his willingness, his appreciation of her, and how he is willing to provide for her. This is where how it all starts, and then he starts his, they start their marital life with him. Automatically, subhanallah, even biologically, it happens. You could, some even suggest that this is how this is how evolution-wise, this is how we evolved, as a society, regardless of how we look at it. There are, there hormones, hormone researchers, there are psychological researchers and biological researchers about, what brings pleasure to each party. And one of the things that brings pleasure to the man is to go out and work and come and provide, to the family, or even protect the family. It brings happiness and pleasure that I'm protecting those. This is how it's meant to be. To come and say, no, this is not how it's meant to be. They both have to work hard and earn for the family, and they have the exact same kind of rights and responsibilities. They go and work, and then they come in the household and do this, everything together. There's no roles that are assigned and so on. This is definitely the wrong notion from an Islamic perspective. There are differences in terms of the roles each of them play in the marriage, and their partners. They're not not one is the owner and the other is the slave or anything of that nature. They are partners, but they do have different roles in the marriage, in the relationship. And this is why we read in the hadith, for instance, the distinction that the Prophet made in terms of the roles. He came to Imam Ali alayhi salam. We said that this month, the beginning of this month marks the marriage anniversary between Imam Ali alayhi salam and Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. And we learn from them and their example. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam came to them and said, "Ya Ali, your responsibility is from the door of the house outside. That's all your responsibility. And Fatima, your responsibility is the door inside." Now, does that mean that in Islam a man should not help, for instance, or should hold it against the wife that, okay, you did not do these, fulfill these duties at home, you're not taking care of your house and so on. It's your duty, and therefore, he's going to sit as almost like a master or an owner or a boss. He's going to start setting certain things. That's not how it's meant to be. And that's not how how the Prophet presented it, because the Prophet himself, after dividing the responsibilities, saying, okay, your responsibility is outside, your responsibility is inside, then he says to Imam Ali alayhi salam that he comes to visit, and he says, Ya Ali, you take care of the sweeping if you wish. I will take care of the children, while Fatima, she is the best in terms of cooking and making delicious food. She makes the food for us. So the Prophet himself is participating in in the house, and he assigns something, or he says to Ali, let Fatima cook. Between you and I, we can do those chores, for instance. So participation in the house, despite the initial assignment of roles, is very clear, and the rewards of it. And again, we're going from the basic dry rules to now akhlaqi perspective. He says, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, any man who helps his wife in her house, he is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates for every hair in his body, he creates an angel to do istighfar for him, to seek forgiveness for him until the day of judgment. Imagine the reward that one is getting for this simple helping. Or even in terms of the wife, a hadith about the wife serving, bringing water even to the husband, how much rewards there are for that. This is the second question. How are we going with time?
I mean, we have around 45 15 minutes left for today. If
Okay.
we are aiming for 5 p.m. So
Okay. Inshallah, that covers this second question. And if there are any, do we have any questions or any comments on this section?
nothing that I've seen. So
Okay.
yeah,
So the
the only
next,
question I think was Ilayha, or one second, let me see. I think that came in the end of the verse, I think, of the verse 228. And at the end of it, it says, مثل الذي عليهن بالمعروف وللرجال عليهن درجة.
yeah,
So, what is exactly being referred to here when you say men are a degree above them? Maybe you can elaborate on this.
yeah. So the ayah, the context of the ayah, allow me to open that, and so the so this is in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 228, correct?
That's the one, correct.
Yeah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the context that it came in the context of in fact, financial aspect. Okay, trying to open it, and my apologies, my thing is slow. Right. So it did come in the context of the financial, not responsibility, rights. Okay. And so, yeah, so, okay. Yeah. So وللرجال عليهن درجة ولهن مثل الذي عليهن بالمعروف وللرجال عليهن درجة والله عزيز حكيم. So amazing. This ayah ends with what? Wallahu azizun hakim. Hakim, hikmah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through his hikmah, he is now assigning this, or decreeing this daraja. Okay? A status, not necessarily to say above. The translation is very I'm not sure which translation you read, but if a translation says alayhinna as in above, it's not the accurate translation. Ala could be above, it could be upon. Okay, so they have a status on them. Okay, upon them, like there's a status upon there that is that men have. And what is the status? Now, when it comes to the concept, sorry, this is the other, I had the other ayah in mind, which was about the inheritance. However, this is about the talaq, in the context of the talaq. What does the man have as a daraja that is different, a status and or a right in this equation that is different to woman? In Islam, and this inshallah we will discuss more elaborately in the session specific to talaq. In Islam, the automatic right of talaq is given to the husband. Okay, automatically the husband has the right of talaq, and automatically a woman does not have that right. Now there are, and again I'll leave that discussion for its time. There are things that could be done to grant the wife, the right of talaq in general or in specific circumstances. And some scholars have implemented or encouraged, in fact, this implementation in the recent years. And there are obviously some automatic situations that automatically give her the right, whether it's even stipulated or not, automatically gives the wife the right of talaq. However, in this situation, the automatic thing is it is the man who has that daraja, that status to have the right of talaq. Now, if whether people like it or not, in today's world, many people try to deny any level of difference or any need for any difference. And in this situation, they try to deny the fact that, there is, for instance, there are, emotional situations that may affect the judgment of each party, and this is why the daraja is there in the first place. But what the Quran and the Ahadith suggest, and the Ahadith explain, is that there are situations where a woman, due to certain perhaps emotional status, she may, want to, for instance, have a, break the marriage. Okay, and automatically it's not given because that would not be the wisest thing. Okay, whereas generally speaking, and this is again, there are exclusions to almost every rule, but generally speaking, the men
Sarah?
men would be more cautious and less emotionally driven. Obviously, in the moment, rage could affect it. This is why, and again, this is something that we would need to elaborate on in the Ja'fari fiqh or the Shia school of thought. The divorce is restricted in terms of it cannot happen automatically. At times of rage, without any witnesses, he says divorce, because sometimes, at a time of anger and rage, one could do something irrational. However, with a delay, there is, the rational mind comes in, and he would, think twice before he does it. Whereas the other party, especially under certain circumstances that affect her, perhaps hormonal situations that affect her emotional status, may lead to decisions that are not the best. And this is why وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends the ayah with وَاللَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, I think that's good. By the way, second topic also is this. This is part of the second topic, so we can continue. And then, if there's any questions about this, it's Risalat al-Huquq, I think, was part of it. And then we can dive into the third topic, which is Nushuz.
Sent. So we have in the one of the references that we have and we consider as a gem specifically in the school of Ahlul Bayt is the treatise of rights of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, or Risalat al-Huquq. And I urge mu'mineen and mu'minat to reflect on a section in which the Imam states the rights of the wife. If there is any, and this is something I often say, if there is any favoritism or any special protection, to any gender in Islam, it would be towards women. The special protection is towards women because of the necessity of that. So it's not that God discriminates, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, or oppresses one gender, men, for instance. This is never the case. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not oppress anybody, and not even the tiniest bit, مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ. However, because of perhaps some, I would say, you could even call it institutionalized oppression. and even somehow justified oppression that happened throughout the history, and perhaps a lot of it is still happening in one way or another. In Islam, we have many ayat in the Quran and many ahadith, and in Risalat al-Huquq, a specific section about the rights of the wife and woman. And so we have in the Quran the chapter of Nisa, for example. And in there, many ayat refer to their rights. In Surah Al-Talaq, there is a chapter where in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often reminds men to consider their duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ. This very specific term or expression is repeated in this surah, in Surah Talaq. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ. So we need to be conscious of our duty to God with regards to women, especially in times of conflict, because talaq happens at times of conflict. So in short, what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of text in Islamic scripture, Quran and Hadith, that speaks about the rights of women, the rights of the wife, defending them, giving them their rights of inheritance, their rights of even as participation in the society, even in terms of the bay'ah, voting, allegiance. At the time of the Prophet, the voting was through bay'ah, okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya Rasulullah, if the mu'minat come and give bay'ah to you. Okay, so clearly, and we have the historical reference of the Prophet setting up a situation where women can also come and give allegiance. And that was happening in a society that they thought women have absolutely no rights, have no voice. Okay, they have no rights of voting, they have no voice, no rights of any kind of participation in that, in the political or in the society, in the social, settings and so on. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly says in the Quran and the Hadith, and we have also Risalat al-Huquq as a great example. In there, the Imam, he speaks about the rights of the wife, and within that he mentions the rights of the husband. One of them, he clearly states the status of the wife being like a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore to be a good companion. We spoke about partnership and companionship, and tuhsina suhbata ni'matillah, to be a good companion to this ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is about companionship, and also he mentions there the rights of forgiving if there is a mistake. So like a friend, you would have to forgive, more so now your partner, your wife, or the husband. They should recognize the fact that the partner is a gift from God, recognize the need to be a good companion, and also be forgiving towards one another. Moving forward, the next question, if I'm not mistaken, is on nushuz. Is that correct? Yes. So on the
before we go to the nushuz,
sure.
There was a question that came up with regards to the rights of the wife section.
Yeah.
I think it says, so she has the right of love and fellowship, and a place of repose so that natural desires may be fulfilled. But before that actually says, although your rights upon her are greater in her obedience to you, finally all your likes and dislikes, so long as it is not a sin. So that section, I think, is being questioned a little bit.
Yeah. So the
and also before that, I think it's listed the rights of women. It's listed under the rights of subjects. And is there a particular reason that it was written, or presented that way rather than just husband in one section? I think it says that since
Because the
she is your
addressee, okay, the addressee of Risalatul Huquq, the direct addressee were the men. So the Imam was giving the men that he was, or the man he was dictating to, the rights. And so he mentioned the rights of the husband within the rights of the wife. So he was, as he was stating the different people that he has, first he starts with the rights of God, okay? And in there he says, that is the greatest right, and through the rights of God, all the other rights are branched. Okay, then he starts mentioning some rights of different things, entities, even including body limbs. Okay, and then he goes to the rights of people around us. Okay, so we have, then he says, رَعِيَّتِكَ بِمِلْكِ النِّكَاحِ. The translation, it's very sad to say, and this is why we're doing the translation project, as you know, Brother Ali Rada. We're working on the translation because of the errors that exist in the translations. So Ra'iyya is not necessarily subjects or peasants or slaves. In today's Arabic world, or some Arabic countries, they, instead of ra'iyya, they use the a'ila. Okay, a'ila, a'il in the time of the revelation meant someone who has children and is unable to provide for them. Okay, someone who is in financial difficulty, someone who has many people whom he is in charge of, and he is unable to provide for them. Now, this is not used in that term. What was used at the time for the family was ra'iyya, okay? Because these are your people that you're in charge of their providing for them, okay? So there is the ra'iyya that are and this is perhaps the mistake comes from that point where there is the ra'iyya through purchasing, as in the slaves, and then there's the ra'iyya through marriage. And so they make them to be the same. And perhaps the translation may lead to that misunderstanding. The ra'iyya, the slaves are ra'iyya because they're people who you should provide for. Now, it's in Islam, as we know, unlike other perhaps not religions, so to speak, but other systems, because Islam is a complete system. Other systems, when it came to slaves, it gave them zero or almost no rights, okay? If any, very little, and for the most part, there were no rights, okay? If the owner wanted to first take the life of their slave, or many other things, they could do that without any rules. Islam introduced the rules and encouraged freeing them. So eventually there were no more slaves, but introduced rules. There are laws. So one of them is that they're your ra'iyya. In other words, they're like your family. Now they are in your responsibility. You have to take care of them. You have to provide them with housing. You have to provide them with food, security, well-being, basically to treat them as your own children. And this was the practice of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. When the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, if they had, in fact, it is common, it's known about Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, he used to purchase slaves. And he would purchase many slaves and then educate them and teach them some skill that they could, earn a living through, and eventually free them. So he would do that in order to, in fact, help solve this social problem. So there are so many slaves in the society. What do? if he purchases them and immediately frees them, they don't know what to do. They cannot, make a living. There would be a liability on the society. So instead, what the Imam would do, he would bring them, he would educate them, he would teach them some skills, and then he would free them, and encourage them to go back to their homes and teach their family, to their hometowns, and teach their people and their family about Islam, and specifically about the school of Ahlul Bayt, which is the true Islam from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the ra'iyya as in the slave is not a derogatory term. It's to say like your family, the people whom you are, you're responsible for. Okay. Similarly, the ra'iyyatika bimilkin nikah, which the Imam refers to the family through the marriage, okay, through the contract of marriage. And so he then explains their rights. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, for that part. I think the question also is, how is this seen, or that statement that I was reading from there?
Okay,
maybe
the other part of it, that your rights are more incumbent or something. Yes.
right,
So
upon her are greater, and her obedience to you in all of your likes and dislikes are final, so long as it's not a sin. So if you are
not so this is what we call irshad, not a rule. Okay, so the Imam is giving suggestive guidance, not setting rules here. Okay, there's no scholar whatsoever that sees that part as a rule and says that this is the rule, that a wife should obey her husband in everything unless it's disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no scholar that gives that ruling because of all the other texts that we have. But what he is saying is that if she wants to have, we're looking now at the ideal marriage, okay? The best way to earn the man's heart and to create a beautiful environment is through not being defiant, okay? Being agreeable, okay? Especially the way perhaps men are and women are. The Imam is telling him that this is the ideal situation. The ideal situation is that she does not become defiant. She is, obedient. So not, again, the rule is not to state that it is a wajib upon her, it's obligatory upon her to obey her husband in every matter. Rather, it is suggesting that this is the healthy relationship. If she makes mistakes, you forgive her, you treat her with kindness, you be a good companion to her. Even in other texts we have because this is brief, as we know, Risat al-Huquq doesn't have all the rights. So in other texts we have that you consult her, consider her opinion, and all of those texts that about the companionship. But in a ship, you also need a captain. Because men, and this brings us to the point of qawwam, actually, which I think is one of the points that we are going to address. If I'm not mistaken, it's the last. No, it's yeah. So it's qawwam. One of the terms used in the Quran for men, that they have a position of qawwam. الرجال قوامون على النساء. So what does it mean to be qawwam? Okay, qawwam is about one who has the responsibility, one who has the duty of establishing, to make one stand. Okay, comes from qama, okay, or aqama. Okay, aqama yuqimu qawwam. Okay, so he helps her stand, he establishes her matters. Okay, so what is suggested there? What is it? Is it ownership? No. All what it is that because of the fact that they are responsible for the affairs of providing the safety, security, household, financial responsibility. Because and Quran is very clear. It says, "Bima faddala ba'dahum ala ba'd wa bima anfaqu." So because they are spending and providing and protecting, they have this level of authority. And this level of authority is not to say they're not partners anymore. It is to say that, yes, partners, in any partner, in business partnerships, healthy business partnership, they automatically, from the beginning, they set some rules in terms of, in case of disagreement, who makes the decisions. Okay, on certain things, he's going to make this partner A is going to make decisions. On certain things, partner B, because there are times that the two partners may not completely agree on terms or on certain decisions, and therefore there has to be somebody who would make that decision. Otherwise, there would be a conflict. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, since they are providing, protecting, they are responsible, الرجال قوامون على النساء, from that angle. So the same thing applies here, that the position here, and even from the Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, the position of authority, or that daraja, that level of authority, is again simply because of to keep harmony, to maintain harmony in the marriage, and to make sure that things move in a smooth manner. There is this specific, the assignment of even the role of decision making in certain situations. I hope that addresses the question.
There's a question, Sheikh, also.
Yeah.
If women were to follow specifically the fiqh rulings,
yeah,
they would not have to do anything in the house except obeying their husbands.
Yeah.
This is correct. And technically, as we've said, like cooking or cleaning are not obligatory on them. So
I think I addressed this in the very beginning, through the two levels of rights. Okay. In the court of law, a judge cannot say to the wife, you did not clean, you did not cook, therefore he has the right not to spend on you and not to provide you with shelter and food and whatever else, nafaqa, basically the financial needs. The husband now is gonna stop giving you your financial needs and providing you with home and so on, because you did not. That is not something he can do. Okay. However, is it the responsibility of the wife to take care of the matters in the house? As we mentioned earlier, the Prophet clearly said to Imam Ali alayhi salam, your spouse is responsible for the inside, and the husband is responsible for outside. Yeah. So if the wife has a helper, for instance, helping her, if the husband is rich, he can afford hiring a cook and a cleaner and everything, by all means. But if he's not, and he's working, and she says, I'm not gonna cook, I'm not gonna clean, I'm not gonna do anything, I'm just gonna sit and do nothing. Okay, that is not a healthy household anymore. That is, and I mentioned to someone who brought this up. I said, imagine the kind of household you're describing that is based on the absolute bare minimum. Okay, so he says, I'm providing you with the shelter and food and clothing and nothing else. Okay, there's absolutely no words of affection, no love, and he doesn't abandon her for 4 months, more than 4 months. Okay, so he's a prisoner, she's a prisoner in that house, and she turns the prison into a hell. Okay, and she doesn't clean it, doesn't provide any food. Like that's not a marriage. That's not a healthy relationship. That is extremely toxic. So what are these basic rules? These basic laws are for the courts, for the their for in terms of what can be enforced. Can he enforce? Can he perhaps expect certain things as in enforced things, or is it? But is it her duty? Should she do that? We clearly read in the hadith that this is what she should be doing. Okay, when jurists respond about the certain, the fact that it's not her duty, or it's not his right that she cooks or cleans, that is correct on a jurisprudential level. But on a healthy, marriage household rules, these are obviously there are certain things that could be. These are things that are also sometimes either negotiated or agreed based on the norms of the society, and we will discuss that perhaps in the next session when it comes to conflict and divorce. But in general, for example, just to clarify the norms of the society and how it affects the duties. So if we're living in a very, very rich society, okay, and she comes from a household where they have a cook in her house, they have cleaners and everything of that nature, okay, then that's the norm. Okay, if they live in a society where when she gets married, she goes to the house, she cooks and cleans, then that's the norm. Okay, these are and defying those norms could put one in nushuz, and we'll come to that as well. Okay, if she is not doing the norm that is implied, accepted, that in their society this is how the norm is. If she, let's say they're married and they're living together, let's move into the next actually subject, which is nushuz, and this will explain it pretty well. Some unfortunately suggest that nushuz, all that it has to do with not allowing the man of herself. Okay, they call it adamut tamkin. They say nushuz is adamut tamkin, that she does not allow him. That is not accurate. Nushuz is to be rebellious, to not fulfill the duties or the things that she normally would. Okay, that is what nushuz is. And clearly, Quran is not actually does not encourage us or tell us to wait until nushuz happens before we act. The ayat about nushuz, they suggest that we should act before it happens, when we fear or we see signs of nushuz. Okay, so the ayah, for instance, when it comes to the woman, the ayah says وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ. Okay, and then for the men, and nushuz is for both men and women. So like if it is about the specific act, the bedroom, providing herself or allowing herself, if it was that, it would not necessarily be from both parties. So clearly it's not what some misunderstood or mistranslated the concept. Nushuz is again to get out of the norm, okay, to break out from the norm that is expected, that is agreed upon, that the society runs in a certain way, households run in a certain way. If any party breaks out of that, that's nushuz. Okay, If there are signs that that's happening, then they should avoid, they should try and prevent it. Okay, so they should take preventative measures to not allow nushuz from happening. Okay, and what is nushuz? In some cases, if a wife was always doing certain things, for instance, she was cooking and cleaning and taking care of certain things, and then she, not because she's not well, not because she's tired, not because she's, it's simply because she is now defiant somehow. There's something, she's this, there's something wrong. Okay, she's not feeling well emotionally, psychologically maybe. Okay, not that physically she's unable to, and then she starts failing in some of those things, or she starts showing him a dry face, for instance. She normally would come and greet him at the door, and now she's not greeting him anymore. He comes home, she's on her phone and doesn't even pay attention that he even came home. Okay, these are signs of potential nushuz. Okay, and this is where وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ. The husband can have نشوز. وإن امرأة خافت من بعلها نشوزا أو إعراضا. So nushuz is different to إعراض, as we read in the ayah. If a woman fears that her husband is starting to have or is about to have nushuz or إعراض, so acting out of the norm, or إعراض, which is turning away from her, neglect and abandonment. If she fears, then she should take certain steps. Quran says if he fears, he should take certain steps. Now the steps we'll discuss, but again, the whole idea is to reignite love and affection and tranquility. We said the جعل بين لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة. Okay, so he wants you to find peace and tranquility with one another, and to be affectionate and loving, and to have mercy towards one another. To reignite that, if one starts seeing that this is not the case, and now there are signs of it, signs of rebelliousness, now we need to address it before it's too late. Okay, so this is why the ayah says وَإِنْ امْرَأَةٌ خَافَتْ. If a woman fears nushuz or i'rad from her husband, or if a man fears, وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ, and the ones that you fear that they are having nushuz. So again, preventative measures. One of the examples, as we were discussing in terms of the responsibilities, is she used to do things and now she's not doing it, and she's just ignoring those things. Now this is a sign that nushuz is going to happen or is happening. Okay, so how do we restore harmony in the household? This is where there are the suggestions for each party. So this is my theory and my humble opinion, that part of it is through what I've learned from my teachers and our scholars of tafsir, and part of it is I will add some parts that are my personal theory, that for each party Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala suggested things that could help resolve the issue. So the men, when they have nushuz, or they're being undutiful, they're not fulfilling their responsibility, a wife starts fearing that he is he's going to abandon her or be nashes, not fulfill his duties. For instance, he doesn't come home until late. Okay, he comes home really late, doesn't want to dine together, doesn't want to sit with her, doesn't sit and he's not showing affection. So she starts seeing that there is a problem. Then what should she do? Quran makes certain suggestions. They're a little different to what should he do. So when it comes to the women, both are in Surah An-Nisa. In Surah An-Nisa, in Ayah 34 is where the women's nushuz is mentioned. In Ayah 128 is where the men's nushuz is mentioned. So the ayah says, وَإِنِ امْرَأَةٌ خَافَتْ مِنْ بَعْلِهَا نُشُوزًا أَوْ إِعْرَاضًا فلا جناح عليهما أن يصلحا بينهما صلحا. That they should, the first thing is that they should try and find a resolution, okay, reconciliation. والصلح خير, and that reconciliation and making peace is better. Okay, so now perhaps based on the natural way of men and women, she fears nushuz, then the immediate thing, she goes to him, okay, and let's make peace, okay, and then he is told that وَالصُّلْحُ خَيْرٌ. Also in another ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that she can bring فَابْعَثُوا بِحَكَمٍ. She can bring one member of her from her side, her family, or somebody who would represent her, and he would bring somebody from his side, one who would be a witness or representative for him, and let them discuss and try and resolve the issue that exists between them. Again, to restore harmony and reignite the foundation that the marriage is based on, which is again mawaddatan wa rahma. It should be about love, affection, and mercy. What about the men? This is when it becomes a bit controversial. So when it comes to men, the ayah says, if now the man fears that the wife is going to have nushuz, fears again, وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ. He is now fearful that she might become an ashes, again rebellion, okay, not just in one area, generally rebellion. So then the first thing he should do is maw'idha. And the term used here, our scholars, they say فَعِظُوهُنَّ وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ وَاضْرِبُوهُنَّ. They are three stages. They're not isolated. It's not just suggestions, and you cannot do all three of them in one time or jump to the third one. Scholars, they say these are stages that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's wisdom in everything that God says and how he says it in the Quran. So therefore, the order here is through his wisdom. The first thing is maw'idha. Maw'idha is that you remind. The maw'idha is reminder or admonishment, reminder. But these are, some translations, but the real meaning of maw'idha is a speech that is meant to remind one and awaken, some or uncover their intellect, their wisdom, to awaken their intellect and wisdom and make them see things. Like a scholar who sits there and puts an hour or 45 minutes or however long of a presentation, a speech, a maw'idha, includes examples of previous nations, how Quran does it, gives us examples of previous nations, reminders of the consequences, reminders of akhirah and how we will face the consequences of our actions and all of that. All so that again we are trying our best to bring about harmony in the household, restore harmony in the household. Therefore, we are thinking of how am I going to achieve this? What do I say that would be most effective so that she can, perhaps change her ways, restore harmony and love, and be affectionate once again with one another. The next stage is وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. And this is this so far there's little to debate about those two things, or to for people to be alarmed by those two stages. Hijran, or wahjuruhunna fil madaji', is to basically leave them, leave them alone, no more, so it actually tells us, this part of the ayah tells us that one of the rights of your spouse or your wife specifically is to be with them, in, to even in terms of the being together in the bedroom, in the bed, just to be there, not even the action and so on. So that's if you don't do that, this is a sign that now you're reacting. Okay, so you're showing your spouse that there is a problem. We need to resolve this issue. So if Maw'idah did not work, we go to the second level, where there is hijran. وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. The third one is the most controversial, and perhaps many have tried to explain it in so many different ways, and which literally the term darb is in Arabic. Let me explain this. In Arabic, darb is to put one thing on another. Okay, so to put one thing on another is the expression darb. So, for instance, darb, to hit the road, as they say in Arabic, in English, is also used as an expression in Arabic. ضربتم في الأرض. You start a journey, so you start putting your feet on the road. So you're walking, now you're journeying. That is actually an expression that is used in the Quran. So ضربتم في الأرض. So darb is to put one thing on another. Now, is this darb in this ayah to be taken literally, or is it about the is it figurative? Okay, in the sense that are we to strike or hit the wife physically, or is it another way of doing it, or which means again figurative, or does darb here have other meanings, as some may have suggested? And I'm sure you've heard from many people, some of you would have heard, and there are so many suggestions out there, and many of them are trying to, perhaps one way or another, avoid the implication of the hitting, to imply that the ayah is suggesting that we are allowed to hit. No, now, Islamically, a very simple question. Are we allowed to hit anyone outside of a court order or in a battlefield? Okay, so am I allowed to hit anyone at all? Okay, besides simply the battlefield or with the order of a court? A question that I'd like to hear some answers, if possible. What do you think? So I guess I don't know if people can hear me and they are just not comfortable answering, or if yes, can.
Yeah, I think people are fine.
Okay, so the simple answer is any hitting that causes harm, marks any the body, or causes real pain, is haram. It's not allowed. Okay, it is simply not allowed. Okay, father to children, not allowed. Can I hit my kids? If it's, just a soft tap that does not cause continuous pain or bruising and real harm, it's okay. Like when, a parent, let's say, and giving an ear rub, a gentle ear rub, or a tap on the back of the hand, or anything that is gentle, that I'm not speaking about no the no that is not, that it is not felt. If they feel it on the immediate time that you, let's say, you strike the hand in the back of the hand and they feel it, that's okay. But if it's strong enough to mark, so you have the marks of, let's say, your fingers on their hand or on their face, that is actually haram. Okay. And in Islam, that has diya, that requires what we call diya, which is a financial compensation for harming someone's body. So is a husband allowed to harm his wife, physically hurt her, hit her in a way that is painful and causes harm, bruising and whatever else? It is simply haram. Okay. So what is the ayah suggesting? Uh, we have many suggestions that people have made. Okay, and I'll summarize a few of them. And one of them, I'm sure you'll find entertaining. So one explanation that some scholars suggest is that it's symbolic. Okay, it is when and I often tell mu'minina mu'minat, I use the example of when a father or a parent strikes gently, not with causing serious pain or harm, their children, okay, in a way that is, just to tell them that I am so disappointed, okay, and strikes them. The children may start, feeling really bad, crying, and so on. And I may have shared this with some of you. I remember when I used to sometimes implement some sort of, not even physical punishment, but taking away privileges from children. Then they start crying so much, and it's as if, and I used to tell them, well, I haven't even touched you. And, we used to be hit and with various things. And even then, some of us wouldn't cry and some would. So why would a child who's hit by their parent gently be crying so much, yet when they fall in the playground, the same child might fall and even bleed and they're not crying? Okay, because now it's not it's not the physical pain. Okay, it's the fact that now they feel that you're disappointed with them. You are so disappointed that you are willing to do that. Okay, so it is, some scholars, they say it's symbolic, and anything that's harmful is not allowed. It's simply not allowed. It's haram. Okay, so this is one explanation. Another one says no, this is actually similar to the idrab concept, which is to, when people go on strike, okay, they call that idrab, okay, which is, in this case, for instance, basically you take away certain privileges, okay. You could say even to the point where some suggested that you can stop paying their nafaqa, for example, which is not correct, because to stop the nafaqa, it has to be with the order of an Islamic authority, an Islamic judge or hakim al-shara. So that is not accurate. But to take away certain privileges as as a sign of basically, what do they say in English? That you hit someone with some fines or something. Okay, you were hit with some taxes or some fines. I think it's the expression is used. Is that correct? So that is another suggestion that's given. Another suggestion is that no, this is neither that type of that type of basically striking physically or even in terms of financial or other types, but it's actually about, you know, you leave the house, okay, because they say that this is similar to the concept of darb fil ard, you know, which means to hit the road, which means to travel. So in this case, you're leaving the house, for instance. Again, that, in my humble opinion, is far from correct, because that's not solving the problem. The whole purpose of these stages that Quran is mentioning is to restore harmony, to restore peace and harmony in the household. So the next thing is, and this is perhaps how we can resolve it, is to suggest the context of darb, okay, or the type of darb depending on the context and the time. So at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, at the time of the revelation, okay, it was the relationship was set in a way that if without harm, please bear in mind, without harming, the relationship was set in a way that the maximum of display of disapproval of one's behavior would be through a strike that would not be painful for sure, with pain that remains there, or bruising or anything of that nature, symbolic striking that would simply that is intended to basically wake up. Okay, so that is in that context. But in today's society, or in any society, or in any situation, even at the time of the Prophet, if the norm in that household was different, therefore that darb would be also different. Because what is the goal of the darb in the situation? What is the goal of all these three stages? It's to restore harmony. If in a household that's not considered awakening, rather it's considered the most outrageous act that confirms now that we should go separate ways, then it's not, we haven't solved any problem, rather we made the problem worse. Okay, and therefore the darb here should be looked in the context. So at the time of the Prophet, it would be certain, or in certain environments, families, societies, it would be certain type, and in others it might be other types, methods that would lead to the again, the desired outcome in this situation is reconciliation. The desired outcome is that we restore harmony in the household and we reconcile, not that we're trying to destroy everything by harming the other party and so on. I think we have gone over time, so and we have a hadith here, as you can see, from the Prophet ﷺ, clearly commanding not to hit your wives and so on. In the again, this command not contradicting the Quran. The Quranic darb is simply the third stage, with no harm, no pain, symbolic. And what the Prophet is saying do not do is when it's no longer symbolic, it's simply one letting out their anger and frustration on an innocent, not just innocent, but a gentle soul, which again, the hadith, we have a hadith that clearly state that, al-mar'atu rayhanatun wa laysat biqahramana. A woman is like a flower. She's not to be treated like some warrior that you're fighting with. Wal-'iyadu billah. I think we might have to continue in the next session on the following questions.
There is a question, Sheikh. Maybe
Yeah.
we can just address it since it's tied to some of this.
Yeah.
And also, I think that about, if it is, maybe the question might also come about how do women who feel their husband is not listening, how do they address the nushuz aspect? So I'm sure, why is it different between, how the male versus the female? And we can elaborate on that maybe in the coming session. But
Yeah.
specific to what you were highlighting, there was a question on did Prophet Lut or Prophet Nuh practice some form of daraba or nushuz of some kind with their wives because they were not listening?
Yeah.
And also with our
Quranic,
situation, there was
the
about
Quranic,
Hafsa and Aisha. This also, I don't know how the Prophet dealt with them.
Yeah. The Quranic example is given where Prophet Ayub alayhi salam, Job, he swore that he would strike his wife because he thought she had committed a certain sin. And when he swore, when he realized that that's not the case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, do not break your oath, rather take, because he swore it would be 100 lashes or something, which is in reference to a specific consequence of that sin. And when he realized that that was not the case, and God commanded him, as we read in the Quran, that he should take a bunch of ashes, which is 100 ashes, and strike her with it, so it's not painful, but he at the same time is not breaking his oath, because in Islam, breaking an oath, or in general, breaking one's oath, is something that is a sin, and it requires seeking forgiveness and paying kafara or expiation. So in his case, in order not to break his qasam, his oath, he had to take that bunch, take a bunch of ashes and strike her gently with it. So striking as a consequence of certain sins with the order of a court or something of that nature is different. But in terms of striking your wife just because I'm angry, or because she's not doing certain things that I want her to do, and so on, that's not permissible. But we can elaborate on some of
so the question of Prophet Ayub, is it that more of a prophet instituting a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, punishment, rather than a relationship between a husband and wife?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say, that this was more of a almost like the rule from a religious authority. A religious authority has the right to, in certain situations, we call them ta'zirat, for instance, lashing because of stealing, because of certain sins, and so on. So it was of that nature. It was not husband and wife situation.
Right. So for the prophets, do we have a way to see how any prophet that may have practiced it within the concept, within the confines of a marriage, for example, rather than
there are narrations of certain things, but there's no strong text on that. And what it seems is that they, as we say in Arabic, we use the expression taraffa'u. They basically ascended above this thing. Okay, so this is not considered the best, for sure. And therefore, not everything that is suggested or permissible is something that the Prophet and the Imams would get involved in. Okay, and that there are different explanations for why. Some of it is because God protected them from being in that kind of a situation. God came to their defense in certain circumstances. And another is because of their personality. They were, for instance, when it came to certain um, type of relationship between the husband and the wife. Somebody asked the Imam, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he said, is it allowed? He said, yes. And the man kept on saying, but these people say this. The Imam said, it's allowed. Then the Imam said, do you do that? The Imam was very angry with him. Okay, the Imam his face went red and he was angered. In other words, just because something is allowed, I'm not telling you that you should do it, or it. Now, this is a little bit different because this is a suggestion from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that these are the steps. So you do the maw'idah, then if it doesn't work, you do the hijran. And if you're trying to save the marriage and that doesn't work, then you go to the third step, which is some sort of implementing some sort of consequence or punishment to again display disapproval, not as a sign, not as a court order of some sort of lashing and so on. Obviously, that is not permissible. So that third stage, perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt from getting into that situation. And if it did not happen, although we do have some suggestions in some narrations of some of the Imams dealing with some of their wives in with that stage, but again, not confirmed, and even some who suggested the Prophet did, not confirmed, and since it is not confirmed, personally, I would rather see it as the Prophet not having done something like that. In one situation, we have an example where Abu Bakr, he came to the Prophet after the Prophet had told him of that the judgment thing between the bringing somebody. So the Prophet had told him of certain things that were happening from the Aisha's side, and it was so bad that Abu Bakr actually struck her and caused her to bleed. So the father did, but even then the Prophet had not done that. So what it tells me personally, and what it tells some of our great scholars, is that the Prophet did not get to that level. Perhaps that may be the better approach. There's also another, again, the goal is what? The goal is reconciliation. If the Prophet did not see that that's going to help reconcile, then there's no way he would use it. If he saw that something like this would have helped reconcile, a gentle tap that is not painful would help reconcile, maybe he would have used it, and nobody would have known about it. You know why? Because one of the things, and I wanted to say that this is that was my theory that I did not mention earlier. One of the things that really, really hurts a woman is to expose her, okay, even in front of her family. So one of the ways that perhaps the Prophet struck her by exposing her to her father in that situation. Okay, maybe that was and what was the reason? He wanted to reconcile. That's the purpose is reconciliation. And so one type of striking was in that situation exposing. And so sometimes the darb in that situation is to just expose, or if some thing that, okay, if as a husband I feel like, okay, if I give a gentle tap to my wife, that's going to fix our problems and we're going to be good together. Okay, that's perfect. That's beautiful. We don't have to talk to anyone else. We don't bring reconciliation. I mean, we don't go to counseling sessions. And if that's going to work, but if that's not going to work, then that's simply a useless exercise. And obviously, anything that's painful is sinful. Painful or harming is sinful. And so that's another, and I think we should finish here, but I'll give another last example of it. It could be a joke based on a true story or not, I don't know. But someone was actually hitting their wife physically. And so another person saw what was going on and said, "What are you doing? Why are you hitting your wife?" He said, "You know, she's this, she's that, she's that." So the man, he said, "That's not how you hit. You know, the way you hit a wife is with another wife." And so the man didn't understand. He said, "So explain, what do you mean?" His wife said, "You know, don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Just keep hitting me." So I don't know if it was if you got her point and why she would prefer to be struck physically than whatever else that other man was suggesting. But that could be also one way of وَضْرِبُوهُنْ وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ. That's more of a joke, but I hope that inshallah we all benefited from this session, and we can inshallah resume and cover some of the rest of the discussion that we didn't get to finish in the coming sessions, inshallah.
Right. So I think just to recap, inshallah, thank you so much for everyone who has participated. Next time we can continue on the nushuz for husbands. What is that looks like? And then I think polygamy and muta are part of what we did not get a chance to cover in today's session. Maybe we can continue into that and then dive into the divorce topic, which is what the next session was meant for. The goal is not to rush through, but to address these things. So, as questions are coming, we appreciate them. And I'm just the mediator, middle guy here. So bear with me if I did not get to your question. Just, we'll try to do our best to relay that. And inshallah, we hope that this is beneficial for all. Once the video is processed, we will try to have it uploaded as well, so you can all take a look as well.
Inshallah.
Thank you so much.
في أمان الله جميعا.
So on.